Professor Laird here, and this is the first video for our International Relations hybrid course that meets in the classroom on Tuesdays from 11 to 12:15, and on Thursdays will be an online video lecture posted in Moodle. This is the first video that will be posted on Thursday, September 1st, and what we're going to do is talk about the syllabus in detail on this particular first video. So if you're ready, let's get to work and let's take a look at the syllabus. Should know the schedule by now. Obviously, if you are watching this video, you've had access to Moodle, but of course, if you do have any issues with getting into Moodle, be sure to contact the help desk. So once again, Tuesdays, 11 to 12:15, room L160 on campus. And as I mentioned earlier, that since there are no classes on Tuesday, September 6th, we'll actually be meeting in class for the first time on Tuesday, September 13th. But I would like to try to set up some group video conferences through WebEx next Tuesday. So if you're watching this video right now, this should be Thursday, September 1st, first day of class. We're going to be talking about international relations very broadly. We'll be looking at the basic elements, processes of the modern state system. We'll be looking at some major IR theories, how the modern state was formed, some theories behind conflict. We'll be looking at international organizations, international law, globalization, some on the global economic system and the environment as well. The textbook for the class is International Relations 12th edition by Goldstein and Peavey House. Might be listed Peavey House and Goldstein as far as the 12th edition goes. Most of my lectures come from that textbook, although I've been teaching this class for quite a while, and some of my lectures are from other sources, but this is the required textbook. If you read that, you'll have a good foundational knowledge of what we're going to be talking about before the class starts. So you want to read the textbook. You want to read the assigned readings before class starts. That'll give you a little bit more heads up, a little bit more informed as to what we'll be talking about that day. I'll also be posting some other information on Moodle as well, supplemental articles, whether it's academic journal articles or just news articles or other types of postings. You're going to want to keep up with current events and world politics through credible news sources. Well, we can talk about that in class as to what are some good credible news sources out there. Also, we will be using peer-reviewed academic journals. I use this term so much that I have developed my own acronym for it, peer-reviewed academic journals. These will be at the heart of your paper assignment, which we'll talk about here a little bit later. This is where the academic studies get published, so that is going to be very important as far as learning about your various topics. And also, we will have some other information posted. Particularly, I'll post supplemental videos as to how to access the library databases, why the peer-reviewed journals are important, and stuff like that. Now let's talk about course participation. It's not going to be self-paced. Each Tuesday's class will be on campus. Thursday's class, such as today, will be a video lecture posted on Moodle, and there will be a discussion forum on Thursdays as well. The attendance for Thursday's class will be taken after you watch the video lecture, which you will want to watch that video lecture all the way through in its entirety before you even enter the discussion forum. The video lectures will be posted around 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier. And then I'll post the discussion forum later that morning, probably at least by noon, and that you will wait until after you've watched the entire video lecture before you go into the discussion forum. Shouldn't take you but just more than a few minutes or so to respond to the discussion forum. It's just going to be a simple question that I may ask or to get some input from you that pertains to that day's lecture. And you'll have until 9 p.m. each Thursday evening in order to accomplish those tasks. And if you're unable to accomplish those two simple tasks within a 14-hour window, at least as far as to watch the video, which may be 45 minutes at the most, and then another 9 hours of that window in order to post a fairly simple discussion question form there. If you're unable to do that, then this class is probably not a priority to you. That's something that you're just going to have to make space to do. If you do not respond to the discussion forum by 9 p.m. that evening, then you'll be counted absent for that day. If you don't watch the video lecture all the way through, you'll be counted absent for that day as well. Each absence results in a 5 points deduction from the participation grade, which we'll talk about here in a second, is 15% of your total grade. Could have points deducted for failing to follow instructions or for repeating what somebody else has already posted, because you're going to want to read previous posts before you respond to the discussion forum. We'll talk about that in class if we need to, but I'm laying it all out for you here right off the bat. Very importantly, students are required to watch the entire video lecture all the way through in its entirety before you even enter into the discussion forum. This is extremely important. Other announcements, assignments, supplemental articles, recordings, discussion forums, pop quizzes, all miscellaneous information will be exclusively through Moodle. So if you have any difficulties navigating Moodle, contact the help desk as soon as you can, because you're going to need to access Moodle every day. The communications for the class will be coming to your school email, your Bergen email account. So that is extremely important as well. You'll want to check your school email every day, because if you're not, then you're not going to be getting these announcements that I'm going to be sending out. Particularly each Thursday, I'm going to be sending out an announcement letting you know what the plan is for that day as far as what the video lecture is, that sort of thing. Discussion forums will be treated the same as attendance to the class. You must reply to the discussion forum after watching the video lecture in order to be counted attendance for Thursdays. If you fail to turn in a required assignment that is due on a particular day, and I've scheduled it so that all assignments are going to be due on Tuesdays so that we can turn those in class with a hard copy, as you'll see here in a minute when we go through the schedule. So I've designed it that way, but if something is due in class that day and you don't turn it in, that will be treated just the same as being absent. Now, when we get into the classroom, again, I would much rather be giving you all this information in the classroom, but phones, when we get into class on Tuesdays, phones will be turned completely off during class. There'll be no checking of text messages during class, and by all means, you will not be leaving the classroom in order to check any messages. Keep in mind, the professor will have some discretion in determining a student's final participation grade, which is 15% of the total grade. I won't delve into that for this video, but in the classroom, I might give you an example of what I mean by this, because depending on your level of effort and your enthusiasm, your engagement, and your participation in the class, that matters. That if you're at a borderline grade, well, then that could potentially bump your grade up to the next level there if you've demonstrated above and beyond participation into the class. If you come in late a lot of times or don't show up or miss forums, things like that, if you're a borderline grade there, you're not going to be getting any bump as a result. Students, again, cannot end the course early. Last test, number 3, we'll talk about tests in a second. No incompletes will be given for the class. Now let's talk about the tests. The tests will be given on Tuesdays in class. So it will be a closed book, closed notes, hard copy test. You'll have, of course, the hour and 15 minutes of that class to do the test. There'll be 3 tests during the course, as you'll see on the schedule here in a second. 4 to 5 chapters each, and each test will be 20% of your grade, so total 60% of your grade for those 3 tests. And the tests could include multiple choice, matching, fill in the blank, true, false, short answer, short essay questions. For the short essay questions, you'll want to demonstrate a fundamental understanding of that topic. So you don't want to just list bullet points or phrases from the lectures. Obviously, you want to memorize things to prepare for the test, but you want to be able to expound a little bit on your essay questions and not just regurgitate a phrase from the lecture slide word for word, because that is not telling me whether or not you learned anything. Yeah, you might have memorized some phrases, but going to need a little bit more understanding from you on the essay questions. So you, again, recommended to take notes during the lecture discussions as well as during the video lectures. Another thing that I found quite a bit is that when students are preparing for the test, they tend to just kind of forget about the lectures and start Googling things from the study guide. That's not where the answers come from. The answers to the test come from the words that are speaking right out of my mouth that you're going to be hearing on the classroom lectures and on the video lectures. That's where the test questions and their answers come from. This is extremely important. If you don't show up for a test without any advance notice whatsoever, you'll get a 0 on it. That you have to be held accountable for this and be held responsible if you just don't show up. If a student doesn't show up for a test, that's the ultimate demonstration of them not really caring much about the class if they don't even know what day the test is on. So you can't show up the next week and go, oh, wait a minute, Mr. Professor, I guess I need to take the test. Nope, it doesn't work that way. You have to keep up, stay engaged in the course, and fulfill the requirements on the day that they are required. It's your responsibility to do that. There are going to be no makeups or extra credit or extensions on any of the tests. Now, if you have a legitimate emergency that comes up on the day of that test, and you let me know with ample time ahead of time, I can put that test in the testing center for you to take immediately when you get to campus. But you have to be able to communicate and provide a legitimate emergency as to why you're not there to take the test. If you have any accommodations, get those to me as soon as possible. Now let's talk about the paper assignment. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about this right now, because the first thing you're going to want to be doing is be thinking of an interesting topic that you would like to write about. But the paper will be 25% of your grade, so you'll want to come up with a topic that you're interested in, that you want to learn about, and you're going to be looking up some good, credible, peer-reviewed journals and sources, that sort of thing, news sources, in order to learn about that topic. So you want to choose a current topic that is relevant to international relations, global affairs, global politics, or foreign policy. So there's a lot going on out there in the world to choose from. The first requirement that I'll need for the paper assignments is not due until Tuesday, October 11th. That's when I'll need a 1/2 page minimum summary of what you want to write about. The format for all of the paper assignments are down here, double-spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins. So everything you turn in will have that same format required for it. So this 1/2 page summary will give me an idea of what you want to write about. I'll give you some feedback on it. If it's kind of vague or not specific enough, then I may want you to resubmit that. Give me something a little bit more specific or a little bit more clarified. There's not going to be a penalty for that. It's just we want to get these topics in and confirmed as soon as possible, because we need to get these paper topics approved before we move on to the remainder of the paper assignment. At some point during the course, I'll be asking you to look up some peer-reviewed academic journal sources on your topic. Don't worry about that. I'll show you what they are, how to find them, why they're important, and I'll give you the exact format that they needed to be cited in for your paper as well. So I'll give all that information to you as we go. I'll be feeding it to you incrementally as we go, but I'm just giving you a heads up of what we're going to be doing here with the paper assignment. As I've said, I'll provide videos posted on Moodle. I'll give you probably at least 3 videos. One just talking about the paper assignment in general, another video talking about peer-reviewed academic journals, and another video that's going to go over the general guidelines in order to finalize your paper as far as that you've got it in best shape that you can to make it as an interesting and informative paper as you can. That paper will be 4.5 pages minimum. Again, double-spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins. That will be due via a hard copy on Tuesday in class, December 6th. So that's going to be about 2.5 weeks before the class ends. So I'll have time because I've got other classes and they all have papers. So I got to stagger these to get them graded by the end of the semester. Yours will be due on Tuesday, December 6th. So you're getting all this information right up front. In addition, there will be a minimum of 6 references for your paper, at least 4 of which will be peer-reviewed academic journals. Okay, so again, don't worry. I'm going to be showing you what those are, why they're important, and how to find them as we move along through the class. One thing you have to keep in mind for your paper assignment, it's not an opportunity for you to spout your opinions. That is exactly the opposite of the purpose of this assignment. It will be an objective, critical analysis of the issue, and I'll be talking about that quite a bit throughout the course. I'll even give one full lecture on use of the scientific method as well as objective critical analysis and why that is so important to learning about things out there in the world. I'll also post a guide to writing your paper that provides a lot of useful information on writing a more interesting, informative paper. Again, the paper is not for the purpose of expressing your opinions. The purpose of the paper is to demonstrate what you have learned from your readings. So you're going to want to read a lot from credible sources, and your paper will be describing what you have learned in an interesting and informative manner. Do not copy and paste anything. I will show you how to cite your quotes, but the bottom line is that the students are graded on their ability to gather information from these credible sources and display their understanding of that topic in their own words. That's powerful stuff when you do that. That means you're learning something. When you read a lot about it, you assimilate that information, organize it, put it into your own paper to describe that to someone else. Oh, that is very powerful. As far as the honor code goes, any form of cheating will not be tolerated, and that could result from being expelled from the school. Obviously, during our tests, which will be held in the class, there'll be no communication, and phones will be placed visibly out of reach of each student, whether it's out of reach on the desk or on the floor. They will be completely separated from your body during the tests. You can't leave the classroom during a test. Obviously, your paper has to be your own work. Any suspicious similarities, or again, if I decide to run it through one of these websites that does the checking, you can do that through Google as well. If there's it's fairly obvious when there's a lot of stuff that's been copied and pasted from other sources. So you just don't want to do that. You want to read, take notes, put it back into your own words, what you've learned. Now let's talk about the grade setup here. Test 1, as I've said, 20% of your grade. Again, you want to be there on that day to take the test. There's no makeups or extra credit. There's no extensions. Same for test number 2. Same for test number 3. 20% of your grade. Test number 3 will be on the last day of class. Again, no makeups, no extra credit, no extensions. Your paper, as I've said, will be 25% of your grade. There will be a late penalty if it's not turned in on the day that it's due, and it will not be accepted at all after the last day of class, and no incompletes will be given as well. Participation, as I've already talked about, is 15% of your grade. There will be no excused absences. If you can't make it, you can't make it. But if you're engaged in the class, then those will be very minimal. There's no extensions to the forums on Thursdays. As I've said before, if you miss that 9 p.m. deadline, you'll be counted absent. If you send me an email asking me to extend that forum, I will not reply to that particular email. I reply to all other legitimate emails, but not to that one, because 9 p.m. is the deadline to respond to a forum. Now let's run through the schedule for just a few minutes here. This is today's right here, looking at the syllabus in detail. I'll be posting a discussion forum later today for you to respond to. In addition to that forum that I post today, I'll probably go ahead and ask you which WebEx conference you would like to be in, because I'd like to split the class in half and have one WebEx conference at 11 a.m. on Tuesday and another one at 11:30, so that we can at least meet face-to-face before the 13th, because the 13th is the first day that we'll actually be meeting in class. So I'll ask you for that as well. Now, the next Thursday, September 8th, however, is, again, a Thursday class. I'll be posting a video lecture that looks at general intro to the international system, discussion forum to follow. Then when we finally do meet in class on Tuesday, September 13th, I'll be talking about the realist view, which is one of those perspectives of how to look at the international system. Then we'll have a video lecture on the institutional theories, social theories of the international system. In class, we'll be looking at evolution of the modern state. Then I want to take advantage of the Thursdays to post these supplemental videos on the paper. So on Thursday, September 2nd, I'll be posting a video that talks about the class paper assignment in general. Then we'll be looking at foreign policy. I'll break that up into 2 parts. The first part, I'll do that in the classroom. Second part will be on video lecture. And then you can see right here, test number 1 will be in class Tuesday, October 4th. So make sure you've got that on your calendar. Then there'll be a video lecture on that scientific method that I talked about. Then in class, we'll talk about international conflict. And on that day, Tuesday, October 11th, that's when your paper topic will be due. All I will need is a half-page summary of what topic you would like to write about in the international realm. Global affairs, global politics, foreign policy. Lots of things going on out there in the world that you can choose from to write about. And we want to try to spread those out as much as possible. There could be some overlap on some of your topics, but wouldn't want any 2 students writing the exact same topic. So we should be able to spread those out a little bit. If you've got a topic that you're really interested in and you want to go ahead and lock that in, you can send me an email and let me know that you would like to look at this topic, and I'll give you first dibs on it. If somebody else looks at that topic as well, I say, well, it looks like that one's already been taken. We'll also look at military force and terrorism. In class, I'll be talking about political culture and democratization, which democratization is an extremely important topic to talk about in today's world, because we seem to be generally moving away from democratization, even in the United States. So that's an interesting trend that is worth looking at. Then we'll be looking at international orgs. I want to talk about the system of international law. Then there'll be another video posted that will be looking at your peer-reviewed academic journals, and at that time I'll want you to submit me maybe one or two samples of peer-reviewed academic journals that you found with respect to your topic. Chapter 7 is also looking at human rights, and then a video lecture on international integration, particularly looking at an organization such as the EU, the European Union, which is an example of this concept here. Then test number 2 will be in class Tuesday, November 8th. Then we'll look at globalization at large, particularly with respect to global capitalism, which seems to be the primary driver of globalization, of how we define it in today's world. Chapter 8 is looking at trade. Chapter 9 video lecture will be global finance. Then we'll be backing up a little bit and talking about why there is such a large divide in the world between rich and poor. Colonialism is primarily responsible for setting that divide into place, and there's lots of lingering effects from colonialism, but that's not the only thing, obviously, that's keeping the world divided in such rich versus poor divisions. But want to back up and talk a little bit of history of colonialism here and global inequality, and then that will set the stage for, of course, now no class on Thanksgiving Day, but the next classroom day we'll be talking about that north-south gap, which is also referred to as the rich versus poor divide in the world. Then another video on finalizing your paper, and that's where I will go through that guide to writing your paper. I'll be going through that in detail. Chapter 13 will be looking at international development, and also on December 6th in class, that's when your paper will be due. 4.5 pages minimum on that. Chapter 13, I'll divide that up into 2 parts, where second part will be video lecture. Same thing with the environment. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm kind of skipping the environment and coming back to that and ending the course, in Chapter 11, environment, first part in class, and then the second part, video lecture, and then the last day of class, which will be Tuesday, December 20th, in the classroom, that will be test number 3. Okay, that's primarily what I wanted to talk about for today's video. You want to keep a hard copy of your syllabus with your other classroom materials. You want to read through that syllabus every now and then, just to make sure that you're still aware of what the requirements are. Might even answer some of your questions that come up during the course of the semester as well. So you want to keep that with you. Also, there will be a discussion forum posted later today as well. You respond to that. Keep in mind that next Tuesday, September 6th, I want to try to set up a couple of WebEx conferences where we split the class in half and just spend a few minutes talking face-to-face, since we will not be meeting in the classroom until September 13th. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at rlaird@bergen.edu. Otherwise, I will see you in the classroom on the 13th.